Alright, welcome everyone. Welcome to Game 5 of the World Championship. This time we had them come back from a one-day break, and Nepo had the white pieces with Ding on black, and he went with e4. I don't know if it had something to do with the fact that he wasn't able to pull out a win with d4. Let me just adjust this camera a little bit. But he went back to his mainline stuff. So we see very normal right here. Bishop going to b5. Gets kicked back, he goes back, knight comes to f6, and we get a castle. If y'all remember last time, we had the same opening. Nepo tried to play rook to e1, and then we had a cool little line there. But this time, we see d3 occur instead, supporting this pawn. Bishop gets kicked, goes down to b3, we have d6, c3, castles, h3. This is preventing the bishop from getting that pin, as well as the knight from coming in. So bishop goes in on the other side. Fortunately, fianchettoed there, so it has no problems doing so. And we see a4. The idea is that you want to try to get an open file, whether you take with your bishop or your rook. He does not accept, instead he attacks the bishop that is unprotected. Well, it is protected, sorry, by the queen. So he drops back. Ding plays c5. Then we get bishop to g5, getting a pin going. We see h6, looking to kick it. And he looks to exchange. And in this position, when all the pawns are still in the board, then it's not bad to trade your bishop for your opponent's knight. Especially the knight that's by the king, because it's going to take some maneuvering to get it to the other side later in the game. We see takes on b5, takes on b5. Now the file is open. The knight finally comes out. It arrives at d2. We see the knight coming to c6, and then bishop to d5. So now this exchange could happen if Ding wants it to. He does. So now the queen ends up getting the open file for now. Okay, and we see queen d7. I would have expected that we may have seen queen come here to a8, another set of exchanges, and then, what's it called? Ding would have the open file, and then he'd be able to come down to like a2. But rooks are stronger on like the 2nd or 7th rank, just because they're stronger with another rook. So when there's only one rook in the position, you know, having a rook down there doesn't do a whole lot, because the pawns could just be pushed. You know, you need another piece to actually have a threat against the king. So normally 2 rooks is better to do that, but we have the rook coming here to e1. And I'm not so sure why you would pick e1 for your home square. I'm not sure if he plans on maybe, you know, lifting the rook and bringing it over to like g3 or something, for example. But Ding does take the open file, and the queen obviously has to move out of the way. Bishop comes here to d8. He was doing a whole lot of nothing right here, just being blocked, so he's hoping to find another home. If he could eventually land on b6, that bishop would be very happy with this pin against the king, because then this f-pawn can't move, the king can't really move because the pawn would be taken. So that's probably going to be his idea. Knight comes back to f1, and now we're looking for another reroute where we have a potential outpost right here. We also might see the bishop move away, and then we take the outpost there on d5. Threaten the bishop right here. Obviously you have to move it, because otherwise you're just going to be losing a pawn. So we trade off the bishops. Knight to e3. And now that knight does look like it's going to be coming to a nice outpost. However, you don't want to actually go to the outpost until it's correct. And while this knight is still on the board, I don't think would be the right time to take that outpost, so he's probably going to be waiting a little bit. We see that bishop finally find its dream square on b6. h4 is played. And I personally do not understand that move whatsoever, but I guess that what you're doing is maybe stopping the opponent from ever playing like g5 and trying to get a attack going with these pawns. I think that might be a defensive move. Queen comes here to c6, and then we see one more push to h5. So again, just kind of cementing that this pawn cannot move. We see c4, which we already expected. You know, he wanted that diagonal against the king. And Nepo goes ahead and blocks that. Even with the exchange, if that were to occur, it's still going to be blocked, and you're still going to have it nicely protected. This pawn right here is hanging now, and I don't know if that's takeable or not. I want to say some tactic prevents you from doing so. Yeah, it would probably be knight takes c4, because then you're going to have a... excuse me, I'm kind of stuffy today. But if you take this pawn on c4, then you're threatening the bishop for 1. For 2, you now create an isolated pawn, and this d pawn would be infinitely weak. So I assume that you do not want to take that pawn. So he takes here. The knight actually recaptures. And I guess the reason for the knight recapture would be that you don't want him to get, you know, a pass pawn being able to be created, so you'd rather take with a knight. Not to mention that you're doing so with tempo, so now the queen has to move. Or you have to trade this strong bishop that you have. Okay, so the queen comes down to c5, looking to target this pawn, I imagine. Queen comes over to g4, and I mean, you're just starting to get a really strong position here, you know, looking for different mate threats on the king. Queen comes over to, what's it called? e5, and this pawn is soon actually going to be takeable. I mean, the queen still defends it right now, but say for example this queen were to be on g3, then the queen could take, and then this move no longer works because you're just grabbing that rook with check, and then you could still save your bishop afterwards. So the knight tries to kick him, and he looks for the exchange, and after every exchange you kind of want to look at how the endgame would look afterwards. And I think that with the pawns right here, pretty much for black, and the position of these pieces, I don't think that that would be, you know, too advantageous for white. I don't think it would be, you know, losing or anything, but I think it would be kind of equal. Yeah, so he doesn't go for it yet because he does have, you know, a decent attack going on. This bishop, while it does have a very nice diagonal, there's kind of this like saying or thought process they use for chess, and it's that you know, obviously, you know, a knight is worth 3 pieces, a bishop is worth 3 pieces. If you were to add everything up, this is an equal game. But if you were to add up the strength of the attacks, this attack quite simply has, you know, 3 points on it, whereas this attack here has, you know, the queen, the knight, and then if you were to add that up against the defenders, then it just does not add up. You know, right now black is losing. You want to kind of overwhelm him with your attackers. And it's not necessarily just how much they're worth, right? Because you could have knights just in horrible positions, or you could have a bishop like targeting nothing. But it's a general principle that if you have your pieces in a good positional structure, that you know, you're going to be doing better. Knights are exchanged. Again, you don't want to take with the queen, I don't think, because then you're left with what's it called? An endgame that's not too unfavorable. This bishop also only gets stronger as the game will go on when pieces get traded off, and this rook could always come down to a2 if it would so like, to try to pick up that pawn. And right now the rook is protected, so that's why this move still works. Alright, so the queen sidesteps and goes to f6, and I now wonder if we're going to see something like a queen f4, because we can't see anything traded off there, and then you're constantly targeting this pawn, and you can start pushing this g pawn. No, but he does move out of the way, and he goes to queen e4, targeting the rook. So again, that's a move that you get with tempo. He's going to have to move his rook. This rook comes up to play defense of both the b pawn and the f pawn. Bishop comes over to c5, just cementing defense on this d6 pawn. And now we do see that g4 move that I was explaining earlier. Queen comes down to d8. Now we see queen come to d5. This move I do not understand just yet. Yeah, that one's above my pay grade. But we get a queen maneuver. Maybe you just wanted to give the file to the rook. You don't maybe have more control. I'm not sure. King moves over to f8. I obviously think you don't want to have this rook and, have it meet the queen and the king. King also comes over to f1. Get out of that annoying pin. Rook comes to c8. Rook comes to e4. Rook comes to b8. All these moves are things that I do not understand, personally. Now we play g5, which I do understand, but I don't know why he did it now. Because now it seems like he has defense. Unless he thinks that he's getting enough out of, breaking up the position, that he's okay with doing so. Like, I wonder if after takes, maybe you play, like, I don't know, queen d2 or something, and then the black has to play f6 if he wants to protect it. So maybe rook can come into e6 then, I'm not sure. Okay, he does this with the rook instead. I wonder if the point stands so that you're trying to have your opponent play f6. No. So black is just going to give this back up. He'd rather not weaken his structure over the pawn. Knight takes. You're already threatening mate in 1. You have another check that's coming over here. This is just really scary looking position. So we have a check. King moves out of the way. Another check. Knight actually blocks. And now he's targeting this bishop, where the pawn would take, and that would be a not so good pawn structure, because once the queen grabs 1, it could kind of grab them all pretty quickly. Not to mention that'll come with check at some point. King just has to move out of the way now. We're going to see the queen drop back to e8. King moves out of the way to f3. And now we have another attempt at a queen trade, which this time Nepo accepts, which means that he may have found the endgame favorable enough. So let's see. Let's see if we can find it ourselves. So take. Take. I assume you would want to take that bishop. Or would you play f6? I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I knew f6 was going to come eventually, and I knew that he would not want to meet f6. But now I assume we're going to have an exchange of pawns, and then this is actually protected twice by the rook and the pawn. So yeah, Nepo goes up a pawn, and that is a very scary pass pawn that he goes up. That looks kind of bold. I feel like there's a very real threat that's going on right here. I know it's not super concrete, but I wonder if maybe rook drops back now or something, and takes, and then you're left playing defense over this pawn when Nepo is already up a pawn. And you could even go something like rook f6 just to make sure the king doesn't do anything, and then back to rook b6 until the king could come up with the f-pawn. Okay, so Nepo looks to support this attack instead, so he believes that he has enough pieces here. Ding grabs the pawn. Rook moves over to h6, and white has a mating net. Okay, so I guess there was a resignation right here. King goes to f5, and white has a mating net. With the third decisive game out of 5, each better than the other, this is one of the best starts to the World Championship match in history. Before the event started, there was doubt about the true interest of the public due to Carlsen's absence. The games spoke for themselves, and I imagine that chess fans all over the world can't wait for the next battle. And yeah, the idea is that the king wants to just come over here and then checkmate. If you play something like, pawn to, what's it called, d5, I imagine there's still a mate because you just play. Well, first of all, you take the bishop, right? So you don't want to do that. But I'm thinking that you have the move knight to g5 coming, and then the king is paralyzed. He can move side to side, but I think that, the pawn will just come with check. And then if the king tries to block, check, here, queen. Same thing on the other side if you try going this way. Again, we'll just see check. So I think knight g5 is the main threat that I'm seeing right here. And there's really no way to stop it. There's no way to like check the king. It's safe from all checks. It's on a light square, so the bishop can't touch it. The rook has 2 moves minimum, and that's with a protected pawn to get to the king. And you quite simply don't have the luxury of that many moves. So Ding loses here. 5 games, Nepo is ahead. He seems to have found out what works for him and what doesn't. I'm curious if he does ever play d4 again in this tournament. I don't think that, necessarily him playing d4 was bad. Wait, Nepo did lose on white, right? Or no, maybe it was a draw. But regardless, he wasn't able to come up with a win on one of his games on white when he played d4. Whereas I think that his games on white playing e4 were very stompy. So great job, Nepo. Hopefully he can pull together another win tomorrow. I think that what they do is every 2 days there's a game, and then 1 day skip, another 2 days of games, and then another skip. But right now we're 3-2. 7.5 is the winner, so still a lot more chess to come. We have a lot more decisive results, like whoever wrote this article/game review, has written right here. So should be a good time. But thank you for watching. Sorry about my stuffy nose once again, and I will catch you guys next time.